Well, welcome to Richlands here, Lions Stadium, for this National Premier League's elimination final between the Premiers of Queensland and the Premiers of South Australia. It's a rematch of last year's national final, and it's Lions against Campbelltown City. I'm Simon Smale, and it's a pleasure to be here on a hot, sunny afternoon in the southeast Queensland region. Bit of cloud around, adds a little bit of humidity as the players walk out of the tunnel and enter the light. There's a small smattering of supporters here. And the two teams are playing for the right to either host or travel to Maitland, who accounted for Devonport Strikers in a 5-goal thriller yesterday. So if we've got anything like that sort of action in store for us, we will be in for a treat. We'll run you quickly through the teams. Warren Moon's side, Lions, well, they'll line up pretty much as expected. Matthias Simic, number 4, he comes back into the side after spending a couple of weeks on the sidelines with a broken wrist. Another key player to look out for is number 8, Mitch Hoare in midfield. Real battling sort of player, and he'll have plenty of the ball, you'd think. Young Keegan Jelicic, another player who hasn't played a lot of football in recent years due to a whole host of injuries. Be interesting to see how he goes as part of a front three in a 4-3-3 formation for Warren Moon's side. As for Campbelltown City, Joe Mullen is lining up in a 4-2-3-1. Can't go past Sean Harvey as a player to watch at the back. He'll be at right back as the list as I see it. Mark Marino is in sensational goal-scoring form for Campbelltown City. He scored a hat-trick in the South Australia NPL Grand Final. The 23-year-old will be looking to add to his tally here today at Richlands. Of course, these two teams have met each other in the very recent past, and it was Campbelltown who ran out 2-1 winners in the Grand Final last year. It was 2 goals for Anthony Chur in the 5th and 32nd minute. Andy Thompson replying just after half-time, but Lions were given a little bit too much to do down in Campbelltown. It handed the South Australians a passage all the way through to the round of 32 for the FFA Cup, and that's the prize on offer for the winners of this national series, and it's a rich prize, as you might expect. We're in the semi-finals stage of that competition now. We do have a federation team in with a chance of getting into the national final of the FFA Cup. That is Brisbane Strikers. So plenty to play for in this competition. It's the end of a long season though for both these ties. Campbelltown City played a 22-game regular season and then a 3-game final series, all funnily enough against Comets. Whereas Lions, their season started all the way back in the first weekend of February. 28 games, they've won 24 of those matches, drawn 2 and lost just twice to Peninsula Power that finished in 3rd spot on the ladder, and Gold Coast Knights, who were eventual champions. They've scored a whopping 89 goals in the regular season. It's an average of 3.2 per game, and we've only conceded a goal every 126 minutes. So lots for Campbelltown, who will be playing in their green shirts today. To the left of your screen, plenty for them to do. And Lions in their traditional orange, just broken from their huddle now. We'll be waiting to see how our referee, Mr. Matt Skinner, adjudicates this contest. He'll be assisted in that with Izzy Crespo on one flank and Oleg Labuz on the other. Jason Crow is the 4th official. Be Mark Marino standing over the ball. Matt Skinner's checking his watch. Everything ready, says Jason Crow. And we are underway in this elimination final. Campbelltown kicking from left to right in the green, and they give the ball away fairly quickly early on to Josh Brindle South. Challenging the midfield, an early opportunity here for Jelicic. Ball's played through towards Mitch Hoare. We mentioned him early on. It was well read by Nick Harpus in the Campbelltown goal. Had to be alert to that, and Lions will want to start quickly. They have had a long season, and they'll be feeling that in their legs, you'd expect. Although they did have a week off last week. missing out on a spot in the grand final after losing a grand final rematch to Olympic by 2-1 up in Redcliffe. So they have had a week to compose themselves, rest up some injuries, are still missing a couple of players. Henry Hoare, who's been a revelation since he's made the switch back to Lions, or back to South East Queensland in any case, from Perth over in the West. He was involved in Perth Glory's National Youth League side and NPL team. He came back home, but is struggling with a bit of a calf injury, and that hasn't settled down. So Mitch will be the only of the Hoare brothers in this match. Sean Harvey looks to play the ball forward. A little flick attempted by Joe Allwright. It's going to be a Campbelltown throw. Harvey will take. It's flicked on pretty well. Allwright's there. Handball is the appeal. It was on Nathan Reardon. Thompson hammers the ball upfield. Still there for Campbelltown City though. Halliday over on that far side of the field. Detroit goes all the way back. And Campbelltown retain possession well. Matt Mullen, 30-year-old veteran. Josh Brindle South just cut that one out, but it'll still be in the possession of Campbelltown. Mullen, Alex this time. But his pass is picked off, and link-up plays from Joe Duckworth. Can't find a target, and it's the green shirts of Campbelltown who have enjoyed the majority of the possession early. It was a good ball forward. Mark Marino acknowledges that. Those of you unfamiliar with Queensland football, the temperature isn't cold. That's always what Luke Breen wears on his head, no matter what the temperature, rain, hail or shine, and we get more sun than any of the other two here in the southeast corner of Queensland. It doesn't matter what the temperature is, he will be wearing that lucky beanie on his head. As Mitch Hoare is caught in possession, and pass forward to Marino just misses its man. He scored 3 in the grand final against Comets, Mark Marino, but only managed 5 in 17 matches throughout the regular season, the 23-year-old, who has had spells at Melbourne City and Adelaide in the A-League. Nathan Reardon, who's was fouled just a few moments ago, just having a conversation with Matt Skinner. Mitch Hoare couldn't quite get on to the end of that. Was very assured at the back by Matt Mullen. Tommy Jarrod shepherds Marino there, and Berean will gather one-hander, or at least attempt to. Lions need to get their foot on the ball a little bit here against Campbelltown, who've enjoyed the Lions' share of the possession in these early stages. Danny Kim just threads the needle there. It was a good pass. Jelicic will be short of match fitness, you'd think. As well, mopped up by Reardon. Here's Makwaze. Ball inside from Thompson wasn't the best. Jelicic does look a little bit behind the pace, as Makwaze does really well there. Really had a good back end of the season, the 26-year-old Colombian. Former Redlands United and Strikers player. Piscineri caught in possession. Now Kim is going to be caught by Allwright. Hammered forward, comes off Kim. Mitch Hoare makes a nuisance of himself. It's a really lovely turn there by Piscineri, and it is a free kick. Lovely work there from the Campbelltown City midfielder. And Matt Skinner wasn't entirely convinced that ball had stopped rolling, and Matt Mullen is going to have to retake this. It certainly hadn't stopped on that occasion either, but the advantage was not going to be given, so play will continue. Alex Mullen linking up with Detroit. Detroit wants the return pass and gets it, gets in behind. Danny Kim comes to challenge. Still there for Detroit into the penalty area. Lovely little back heel. Crosses there in the middle. It's onto the roof of the bar twice. And it took a deflection on its way through as well. It was Joel Allwright, I think, who got the final touch from a Campbelltown perspective, but it was a Lions player who helped it behind, and it will be a corner Allwright will take. An early chance for the South Australians, who might want to go short here, but Jelacic did snuff that challenge out. Allwright will look to just put this deep. A lot of pushing and shoving on the edge of the penalty area. It's to the near post, and Marino, and Allwright's second attempt is hammered clear, but only as far as Halliday. Sean Harvey didn't use Halliday on the overlap. Josh Brindle-South, neither of those players knew where it was, but Brindle-South reacted fastest, and Matthias Simic, who's such a rock at the heart of this Lions defence, mopped up. Matt Mullen goes wide to Sean Harvey. Space is opening up in midfield. That time it was Marino coming back, but here's Lions through Mitch Hoare. Hoare inside to Reardon, who has been operating in defence in the absence of Matthias Simic. He's replaced Henry Hoare's role as Josh Brindle-South does really well to get round the outside. He'll look to pick a target. Mitch Hoare is that target, and that one's over the bar from Lions this time. Smattering of applause from the home supporters, and that was a good move from the home side. Had won 11 games in a row to end the season before that semi-final defeat to Olympic, and they'll be burning to get revenge on Campbelltown City from 2018. It was a disrupted preparation as a little bit of composure evades Campbelltown. It'll be a Lions attacking throw. Jelacic doesn't seem overly keen on wanting to take it. In fact, we'll wait for Josh Brindle-South, who was commenting on the temperature and the direction of the sun before kick-off. He did assure me that he had slops and sunscreen on. Duckworth's movement results in another throw-in. Brindle-South wants to play it to Jelacic. Mkwase, it's a tricky operator in that situation. Jelacic with the cross. It's Mitch Hoare again. He's not known for his heading ability, Mitch Hoare, but he has had a couple of decent efforts towards the back end of the season, and indeed now, but there is a little bit of concern for a Campbelltown City player in the middle, and it didn't look like there was any Lions players around him, and that could be difficult. Stretching out his left leg. Cramp? You don't often see cramp in first stages of matches such as this. Joe Duckworth just checking on his opponent there. Perhaps there was a little bit of contact. It's Dion Kirk who is limping to the sideline. And they appear as bemused as we are as to what the situation is. Joe Mullen will be loath to use his substitutes this early in the contest. Just needs a little bit of magic spray perhaps. Nick Harpus will want to get things back underway though. Campbelltown playing with 10 men at the moment. Danny Kim rises highest. One of the smaller players in this Lions side. It's as you were with Nick Harpus playing the ball out wide this time. It's Dan Mullen over on that far side of the field. Skips past a couple of challenges, but the ball ends up back in that left pocket. Mullen, good pressure from Duckworth. Awkward, because here's Jason Mkwase. Mkwase threads the ball forward towards Mitch Hoare, a little bit too heavy. Mitch Hoare goes down. He appeals. Matt Skinner isn't having a bar of it, and I think he's probably right. Mitch Hoare will continue that conversation. Throw comes in from Thompson. Mitch Hoare leaves bodies sprawled around the turf on the edge of that penalty area, but Simic will head the ball back towards Danny Kim, and Kim and Mkwase now. Kim inside to Reardon. Jelacic pass to Hoare was picked off, and now Tommy Jarrett is going to have to be alert to the presence of Mark Marino. And Kim has a lot of space in the middle, and Marino is just asking why Danny Kim was afforded that amount of space, but it appears Campbelltown more than alert to the presence of the numbers of Lions bodies in their defensive half, so they chose discretion as the greater part of valour, and it probably wasn't a bad choice. Here's Matthias Simic switching the angle of attack to Andy Thompson on this left-hand side. So back to Simic, and now Danny Kim. Jared, Reardon, Kim, and now Simic has space again. Quase's come short, but Simic is going to go long, and too long in fact. Nick Harpers will be pleased that those situations keep occurring, but we are going to have an early substitution. It's going to be Anthony Chur, the 29-year-old, coming on to replace Dion Kirk, who didn't last long at all. Lions will not relish the prospect of seeing Anthony Chur again. He scored both goals in the grand final last year as Lions sportingly play the ball back after it was played out deliberately by Harpers. The 5th and 32nd minute in front of just over 1,500 at the Steve Woodcock Sports Centre. Campbelltown appear to be momentarily rattled at least. The pass was intended from Makwase to Mitch Hoare. It didn't get there first time around, but did second. Jelicic is the recipient in the edge of the penalty area, but it's good defending from Campbelltown City. Just had bodies in the right place at the right time, and they'll look to escape now, but do have a lot of men behind the ball still. They'll have to regroup, and it is up to Sean Harvey to play that ball forward. Straight to Jelicic, though, as Kim shows his ability. Offside is the call against Duckworth. Has 2 hat-tricks to his name so far this season, Duckworth. Did Brindle South get a touch? Matt Skinner thought so. The supporters didn't. Good opportunity for Campbelltown. Might be a lucky break, but they'll take it. Nice little flick again. Is that a free kick or a penalty? Alex Mullen's furious. Mark Marino's pleading with Matt Skinner. And we are going to have a bit of a discussion between Matt Skinner and Adam Piscineri. Now, yellow cards are costly in these contests. Each yellow card is a negative point for the team's tally. Some discussion beneath us between some supporters. No card is shown by Matt Skinner. We'll get onto the point system as the game continues, but teams will be wanting to avoid conceding cautions, or indeed sendings off as much as they can. But Campbelltown have had a few players sent from the field so far this season, based on the information I've got from Sports TG. Here's Kim. Helped on by Thompson. Free kick is given by Skinner. No advantage to be played. There's an inquisitive look from Luigi De Troia. It looked a fair call from Skinner. Thompson has a good delivery on him. He will instead defer to his captain Simic, who has committed 2 lines for 2020. There was suggestion that he would be moving to pastures new, or perhaps even opting for a different challenge entirely, but he will be back, and that's fortuitous for Lions, and Joe Duckworth just can't thread the ball through to Andy Thompson, who's continued his run and put the goalkeeper under all sorts of pressure, and Harpers will be very grateful that Keegan Jelicic couldn't get hold of that return shot. Dangerous times for Campbelltown City, and Harpers lofts this ball as far forward as he can, but still onto the head of Andy Thompson, and Andy Thompson will take great positivity from that moment. It was his pressure that forced the mistake, and Lions, well, they'll be kicking themselves that they didn't capitalise more. Detroit does well to help that one round the corner, and a free kick is given after Danny Kim rather enthusiastically and over-enthusiastically gets stuck into his opposite number. Plenty happening in the early stages here of this elimination final between Lions and Campbelltown City, the premiers of Queensland and South Australia respectively. Here's Danger Man Marino. All right. And that wasn't the best outcome for the visitors that they could have hoped for. Luke Berean comfortably gathers. Lions are a difficult side to score against. They've kept 13 clean sheets this season as that long ball is picked up by Duckworth, but it was really well shepherded out in the end by Dan Mullen. Yes, 13 clean sheets this season, 17 last season, so that's 30 clean sheets in 54 National Premier League's Queensland matches over the past 2 seasons. It's enough to make a dry cleaner blush, that. Exceptional effort from this Lions defence, who are exceptionally organised by Warren Moon. By next season, they will be without their inspirational coach. He is stepping down at the end of the season. He'll be the general manager of the Brisbane Roar Academy. He'll end a period in which he's won 9 trophies in 5 years with the club. 2-time National Premier League's Queensland premiers. They won the grand final in 2018 as Jelicic, does well over on that far side. Mitch Hall goes to ground. It was of his own volition, though, rather than that of a Campbelltown player. He skips past 3 challenges. There's a 4th. There's a 5th. Mitch Hall, it's side netting. He had options in the middle, did Mitch Hall. That was exceptional footwork from the youngster, though, a former Raw Youth player and Brisbane City player. 23 years old. A real live wire. I know Brisbane City were sad to see him go, but he couldn't pass up the opportunity of coming to Lions and the prospect of linking up with his brother Henry, who then was signed to play out in the West, but Mitch Hall was able to reunite with brother Henry, who is sitting this one out, although he did tell me before kick-off that he does expect to be fit should a semi-final be required for Lions, and that semi-final will be against Maitland. Whether it is here or in Newcastle, time will tell. Here's Simic, going on a bit of a run and uses his strength to get past Joe Allwright. Allwright showed tenacity though, as Andy Thompson tries to steal 15 yards or so. As you were with Simic, who goes back to Tommy Jarrod. Played well over 100 games now, Matthias Simic for Lions throughout the Brisbane Premier League. Does have that right wrist strapped. He showed it to me beforehand. It is still a bit swollen after that skiing accident that forced him to break his wrist. I can tell you Warren Moon wasn't best pleased about mid-season. Knowing Mattia, I don't think he was most impressed either. But he will be fresher than he might have been at this stage last year. He was a real rock at the back last year and had to carry the expectations of this Lions team a little bit, having deferred some of those duties to Tommy Jarrod and Nathan Reardon in the latter part of the season. May well play off for Simic, and he has had the opportunity, of course, to rest a couple of those other niggles as well, so he'll be far better prepared than he was in the national final last year, when he actually only arrived at Campbelltown 15 minutes before kick-off as Mitch Hall tries to thread the needle through. Hands were up as Joe Duckworth and Jason McQuarrie both raced through, potentially from offside positions. The flag did stay down though. Half thought that Mitch Hall was going to pull the trigger himself then. Has scored 7 goals this season from 21 matches. Chose not to though. Next time perhaps he'll change his mind. Josh Brindle South didn't get the benefit of a decision down in his own defensive half, but got the benefit of one there. He was very close to chesting that ball out as Mitchell helps it on to Jason Makwaze. Makwaze has to race, and Detroit does really well in the end. Because Jason Makwaze, when he gets his skates on, he's very, very quick. You can see those fast feet moving. And ball boy managed to return the ball against the surrounding fencing, so he's had to go on another little trip. We'll use the replacement for now. Thompson looking for an option ahead of him. Duckworth is that option. Back towards Makwaze. It didn't quite sit for the Colombian. And it's cleared up to Marino, who does well, and Marino does really well to release his teammate over on that far side, who's shadowed by Jelicic. Good run by Halliday, that. And an opportunity here for Campbelltown. Marino just got bumped by Simic, and that allowed Tommy Jarrett to clear. Simic using his experience as a free kick is given right in front of the Lions bench. You can tell what Mitch Hoare thinks about that, judging by his body language. And Matt Skinner wasn't ready, so... And in fact, it wasn't a throw-in anyway, it was a free kick, so... Good opportunity here, a good platform for the South Australians, the reigning national champions. Won the double down in South Australia in the last 2 seasons. 3-0 the score was there last week. It's an awkward one for Josh Brindle South. He's helped out by Mitch Hoare. Now an opportunity perhaps for Duckworth. Around the corner to Makwaze. Makwaze hooks it round to Mitch Hoare. And that was really well defended by Campbelltown. They watched that ball bouncing, and it could have been awkward for either Mitch Hoare or Keegan Jelicic. Can't launch an attack though, and it's back at the feet of Matt Mullen in the heart of the defence. Now Dan Mullen. Back to Matt. Sean Harvey is wide, and after pressure from Duckworth, that's where Matt Mullen goes. Alex Mullen now wide. More Mullins than you can shake a stick at here. Campbelltown building patiently now. Halliday threading the ball wide. Lots of time for the cross. It's against the crossbar again. And now it's blocked. Was it by Luke Barine in the end after a deflection on the way through? That's twice. 3 times if you count the double dip in the first few moments of this contest that Campbelltown have hit the bar, and that one fairly rocketed against the horizontal. Lions as rattled as their woodwork at the moment. But here's an opportunity for Kim. If he turns, he has space, and he does see that space now. He's closed down by Harvey. Wide to Thompson. And Thompson goes all the way back, and Danny Kim's pretty upset by that, but retaining possession is key, particularly in these warm temperatures. Reardon and Jared playing in amongst themselves. Now Simic. Makwaze skips past 2 challenges, wants a return ball. Danny Kim chooses to ignore him. Now he goes back to Jason Makwaze. Makwaze wanting an option. He's been closed down, but that's excellent work from Jason Makwaze. Mitch Hoare, tried to thread the ball back through to the Colombian and was unable to do so. But good footwork and good patient build-up from Lions, and just shows that sometimes it's not ideal just to get the ball forward towards the edge of the penalty area, but trying to prise open those gaps is just as valuable as Matthias Simic shows his composure to get past the challenge. They do go a little bit more direct this time. It's helped in by Reardon. It's caught underneath his own crossbar by Harpers. Probably more comfortable than I made it sound. It was well watched. It was a stretching cross from Nathan Reardon. I'm not sure he was going for goal, the 32-year-old. Luigi De Troyer didn't give chase. Uja Detroit scored twice at this stage of the competition last year in a match against Canberra in the nation's capital. 3-0 the score in that game as Mitch Hoare gets his radar all wrong. Yeah, path through to the final last year involved beating Canberra away, then beating Sydney Olympic at home. Max Burgess getting a second-minute opener for Sydney Olympic. Max Burgess now at Western United in the upcoming Hyundai A-League season. Mark Marino scored just before the half-time break, and Ian Fife, the veteran, got a 95th minute penalty to send Campbelltown through to the final, which they hosted against Lions. Lions who beat Edgeworth Eagles here thanks to a Marek Madley goal, and then went through on penalties on a Tuesday night against Heidelberg. That match happening midweek because of the Football Federation Victoria finals taking place on the weekend coming up. Heidelberg, of course, returning to this stage of the competition, and they're in action from 4:30 today at JL Murphy Reserve. They're taking on Perth Soccer Club from Western Australia. So that'll finalise the lineup, and Heidelberg or Perth will have to go some way to ensure hosting rights in that one after Wollongong beat Canberra Olympic 5-1 as the flag goes up for an offside against Anthony Chur. Scott, James, Zojewski, Lita, Dimoski all scored for the Wolves down at Albert Butler Park. Popovic, the only response from Canberra Olympic. That wasn't a thriller, but the Maitland versus Devonport Strikers game was. 3-2. Check out the highlights of that game on nationalpremierleagues.com.au if you haven't already. It's a really entertaining game. So the ball is helped back. An opportunity, a mistake there from Matthias Simic, and it's fallen at the feet of Joel Allwright. Allwright. Cross did get a deflection off Simic, and it's comfortably in the hands of Luke Berean. Game has settled down somewhat. It's still 0-0. Lions against Campbelltown City. If you've just joined us, Campbelltown in the green, Lions in the orange for a spot in the semi-finals of the National Premier League's competition. It's Mitch Hoare, helps that one on to Duckworth. Duckworth in for shot. It was a great effort from Joe Duckworth. He managed 10 goals in National Premier League's Queensland competition this season, did Joe Duckworth. He almost had one in the national rounds just then. Wasn't far off at all as Kim protests that he got the ball after scything down Anthony Chur. The one-time Socceroo, played against Kuwait in 2009. The 29-year-old was playing a whole host of games for Melbourne Victory, Adelaide, Western Sydney, Wanderers, Newcastle and Wellington in the Hyundai A-League. Plenty of A-League talent on display here today. That pass goes all the way through, and a free kick is given against Nathan Reardon this time. And it's Mark Marino who comes up a little bit sore from that one. Another former A-League player. Tried to attempt was to be taken quickly, but fortunately for Mark Marino and Campbelltown City, Matt Skinner wasn't pleased. It's been a reoccurring situation from Matt Skinner so far this half, just making sure the players taking the free kicks from the right position. As the players look to try and get the game going by fair means or foul. Good platform for Campbelltown this. They're going to go for goal. No, it's just swept in, and it's Luke Berean who comfortably gathers, didn't even need to leave the ground. There's a bit of a wasted effort that. The throw to Mitch Hoare was controlled brilliantly. Here's Makwaze. Makwaze fronts up his opponent. Uses Mitch Hoare. Mitch Hoare goes to ground. It will be a free kick. We've seen those given on both sides of the coin so far in this game. Consistency being shown by Matt Skinner. And Lions will build possession once more. Jared, it's been closed down by Marino. Chooses to go back to square one, and Luke Berean. Luke Berean has been known to go walkabout. Sometimes Warramoo, I think, would like to tether him to his goal. Was caught out in the FA Cup qualifiers against Brisbane Strikers. 3-1 the scoreline in that game, in the 5th qualification round up here in Queensland. Of course, Melbourne City play Brisbane Strikers up here on October 1 as Campbelltown come forward. That's a fierce strike, and it was not gathered first time cleanly by Luke Berean. Alex Mullen it was who unleashed the fierce strike that just fizzed across the turf here at Lions Stadium. Now Mitch Hoare plays the ball through to Duckworth. Duckworth, cross was deflected and comfortably gathered by Harpers. Good effort from Alex Mullen. And Luke Berean couldn't gather cleanly. That's how fiercely it was struck. Space arrives on this near side for Luigi De Troyer. It's closed down pretty quickly though. He has Sean Harvey on the overlap, chooses to go inside instead. Here is Joel Allwright. Now Harvey. Harvey under pressure from Makwase. Good work from Jason Makwase, who did go to ground. Dan Mullen. Anthony Tuer, the substitute. Can't thread that ball past Josh Brindle-South. Lions will play the ball out. Mitch Hoare. Danny Kim will go wide. It's a poor pass from Danny Kim to Luke De Troyer. Layoff to Allwright wasn't a good one, and a free kick is given for a foul on Danny Kim in the end, who atoned for his mistake. But that could have been very costly for Lions. And had De Troyer managed to lay off Joel Allwright just a little bit more power, that could have been the opening goal, because Luke Berean has already seen how much power Joel Allwright has in that right boot. Kim's ball forward is cut out. Here's De Troyer again. Helps that ball forward towards Marino. Marino has 2 Lions players around him, and it's Josh Brindle-South who comes away with it. Good defending. Jelicic jumps, unable to gain possession though, and Campbelltown build once more. All right. Can't get past the second of the Lions players, who was Nathan Reardon. Lions want to take a little bit of pace out of this game at the moment. Get some control back. Thompson. Quase's come short. There is space behind him if Nathan Reardon sees it. He doesn't appear too inclined to overexert himself in this early stage and make his way down that far side as Jelicic links up really, really well with Josh Brindle-South over on the far side of the field. Brindle-South cuts back inside, gets past one, gets past a second. Reardon's pass was not the best. It was really well cut out, though, by Adam Piskineri. It is a Lions ball. Pinballed around a little bit there. It must have come off Alex Mullen last. Josh Brindle-South, who linked up very well with Keegan Jelicic there. Jelicic, former New Zealand under-17 international, who has been out of the game for 3 months or so with an injury. The latest in a bit of a line for the former Rochdale player. He's just unable to get into the game very early, but he's woken up a little bit now. Here he is now. Brindle-South aimed that ball towards Duckworth. It's headed clear. Mitch Hoare, though, may he pull the trigger here? No, he wants support. And for once, Andy Thompson wasn't providing it, but he gets the ball now, does Thompson. Now Mitch Hoare again. Jason Makwase. Lovely work from Jason Makwase, and he draws the foul off Sean Harvey. Free kick in a very dangerous position for Lions. It's a fair way out. But we've seen Andy Thompson hit them. We've seen Joe Duckworth hit them on occasion, and you'll have no doubt that Lions players will be following this one up as Nick Harpers sets about building his wall. Looks like it'll be 4 men. Some instructions I think have been received from the bench, and Campbelltown are organising themselves as thus. It is Thompson and Duckworth who are standing over it, although it's shaping to be Andy Thompson. No, it'll be Joel Duckworth. It was a little bit wasteful from Lions there. They have an enviable record at Lions Stadium, do Lions. An 86% win rate, having played 36 games and lost just 4 in all competitions over the last 2 years. Has become something of a fortress, although not too many games have been played at this time of day in Richlands. Not for the men's team anyway. The women, who won the double in their grand final victory yesterday. Fantastic occasion here for women against Moreton Bay United. They are in the crowd, the women's team, supporting their male compatriots. Both teams winning premierships here in Queensland for Lions. Impressive effort. Oh, that ball's found all the way through, and it's an air swing from Joel Allwright. Makwaze does really well there. Just made a nuisance of himself and managed to disrupt any sort of hopes that Campbelltown would have had of getting something moving down this right-hand side. It's pretty sloppy at the back, though, from the host to allow that ball to bounce not once but twice. Joel Allwright's eyes just lit up. Fortunately, he couldn't make contact. It would have been spectacular. It ended up being spectacular, but all for all the wrong reasons. As Lions will go back to basics and use Danny Kim, former Royal Youth and Hume City player. It's a good ball towards Thompson. Thompson is stopped fairly uncompromisingly by Sean Harvey. Good defending from the Campbelltown number 2. Well watched by Reardon. And his header will trickle all the way through to Nick Harpus. This is Campbelltown's 3rd appearance at this stage of the competition. In 2013 they got a bye to the semi-final but lost 3-1 to South Hobart. And of course last year's triumph came after winning all 3 of their games in regulation time as well. So haven't had to go for any longer than the 90 in this competition, have Campbelltown, who've won 3 of their last 5 games. They've suffered a couple of defeats. They lost to Comets in the first round of the final series by a 1-0, but then atoned for that with 2-0 and 3-0 victories, the last of those coming in the grand final, as we've already mentioned. They beat Croydon Kings in the final game of the regular season in South Australia, but did lose 4-1 to Comets in the last time they played in the league. Probably something about familiarity breeding contempt in that situation. Playing Comets 4 times in 5 matches. Good control there by Detroyer. Links up with Marino. Detroyer goes back. His attempted pass was cut off by Kim, so Detroyer had to check. Now he goes back to Piscineri. Here's Alex Mullen. Piscineri avoids him. Detroyer wins a free kick, and Jason Makwaze wags the finger at Matt Skinner. Wasn't impressed with that decision. Still goalless here at Lions Stadium at Richlands. A hot afternoon in southeast Queensland as the premiers of Queensland and South Australia lock horns for the 2nd time in as many years in this competition. Lions hoping to extract revenge after last year's grand final defeat against Campbelltown City, but revenge has not looked like coming just yet. The visitors hitting the bar twice on 2 separate occasions, 3 times on 2 separate occasions really, after the first effort bobbled off the top of a crossbar. But in the shadows of half-time, that's as close as we've come. It's Alex Mullen who sent the woodwork rattling with a fierce drive, and O'Brien has had to make a couple of saves as well, but Nick Harpus has had to be alert, but Hasn't really had too much else to do. Simic directing traffic, told Thompson to make a run inside, played the ball to Makwaze. Makwaze's ball inside to Thompson was cut out, and Campbelltown, with some nice interplay on this near side, look to play the ball forward, and they do so through Piscianeri, who goes down after being challenged by Matthias Simic, and he's going to earn our first booking of the game. And we've already mentioned that bookings can be costly. That's now -1 points to Lions. We'll just run through those point system now. You get 3 points for a win inside the 90, 2 if you win after extra time, and 1 if you win on penalties. You get 3 points per goal scored by the home team, 4 points per away goal, and you lose a point for every goal you concede. It's -1 point for each yellow card, and -3 points for a red card. And those points then go forward to see who has hosting rights for both the semi-finals and the final. So Maitland, having won at home in normal time by 3-2, with only 1 yellow card being given, have 9 points. So either Lions or Campbelltown need to score more than 9 points in order to have hosting rights against the Newcastle-based side next week. So for Lions, that means by winning by more than 2-0. That will now leave them with 8 points in this theoretical situation. So that free kick is rather wasted by Campbelltown. However, if Campbelltown win by 2-0, they will host. As such, as yet, they do not have any yellow cards to worry about. We're a long way away from talking about hosting when the two sides are yet to find the back of the net in this contest. Campbelltown look to come again. Here's Alex Mullen. Oh, skips past one challenge. Marino will take up the charge. Alex Mullen, there was a handball there. It popped up into Mitch Hoare's arm. You've seen them given. Not by Matt Skinner on this occasion. Jelicic links up well with Mitch Hoare. Mitch Hoare skips past one challenge, and Halliday is pinged for a foul. It did look like Mitch Hoare skipped around and did well on that occasion to get away from the challenge and just drew the foul. He is good at that, Mitch Hoare. Hoare goes back inside, but his pass towards Kim is intercepted. Ball forward by Alex Mullen towards Detroyer. Kept in well. Cross comes in early. It was aimed towards Marino. Josh Brindle South helps it up towards Jelicic. Jelicic battling hard and does well. This could be an awkward one, 50-50 ball. Campbelltown come out on top of it as Mitch Hoare decided at the last minute that leaving his foot in wouldn't be the best idea. And the ball ends up at the feet of Luke Berean. As you were. In the shadows of the half-time break. Nathan Reardon unimpressed that he's pinged for a foul on that occasion. Perhaps with a couple of words towards the Campbelltown bench. Campbelltown take it quickly. Just looking for an option. The run is by Chur. It was aimed towards him, but it was rather caught up in the breeze. Breeze is going from left to right, though coming from behind us slightly as well as the board goes up from Jason Crow, showing 2 additional minutes at the end of this first half. We are still awaiting our first goal in this elimination final between the champions of Queensland, or the premiers of Queensland, sorry, and the premiers and champions of South Australia. Lions 0, Campbelltown City 0. Can the visitors get an opener before the break? They have come closest, hitting the woodwork twice in this first half. 2 twists and turns on the edge of the penalty area, finds Halliday. Halliday goes on the overlap. The shot's going to come in for Marino. It's only parried again by Luke Berean. It was an awkward one. It bounced just in front of him, and then it was helped behind before Anthony Chur could latch onto the rebound. Luke Berean does get a slap of appreciation on the palms from Matthias Simic, but his palms will be stinging from another fierce shot from Mark Marino. He's hungry for goals. The hat-trick hero from the South Australian Grand Final as Campbelltown look to press in the latter stages, but they can't press without the ball. And here comes Keegan Jelicic. Jelicic inside to Duckworth. Mitch Hoare. 4 men up for Lions. Duckworth to Makwaze. Makwaze shifts onto his right foot. Makwaze gets a shot away. It was comfortably dealt with in the end by Nick Harpers. But Lions counter-attacking at lightning pace there. You can see there's some players in the Campbelltown City side in particular, although they're not exclusive to Campbelltown, feeling the pace a little bit in this opening 45 minutes as Matt Skinner brings things to a close. It is half-time in this elimination final. Lions 0, Campbelltown City 0. Campbelltown have come close twice, hitting the crossbar 3 times on 2 separate occasions. The first, a bit of a bobbling effort that deflected onto the roof of the crossbar. The second, Alex Mullen sending the ball and the goal rattling with a fierce drive from distance. Luke Berean's had to pull off a couple of decent saves as well, but you don't keep 13 clean sheets throughout the regular season by not being able to deal with long-range efforts. So we'll go into the half-time break. Lions 0, Campbelltown City 0. We'll have a short break and we'll be back after these messages.
time for talk is over. It's time for Australia to get that spot. "45 meetings between these two, and the tone was set, wasn't it? All the way back, even before season one, but they've been going at it pretty hard.
He rises nicely and steers the ball down and into the back of the net.
Wonderful setting, sellout crowd, two best teams in the country. What an occasion we have. They score this one and they are the champions. Sydney FC are the champions of Australia. This original rivalry, always a keenly contested affair. There's nothing quite like this fixture.
It's an honor for us as coaches to work for this kind of club. I'm very thankful for this chance.
He rises nicely and steers the ball down and into the back of the net.
I love playing here and I'm going to love managing here as well. The attitude and the ambition of everyone's been first class. The games, you can't go quick enough for me.
How about that for a finish?
How good is the Melbourne derby? This should be an absolute cracker. Brilliant goal!
What can McLaren do? Scores!
I'm excited for start this new experience. I'm happy.
The stage is set for the 21st Sydney derby.
A special night for the A-League.
Fabio hand went low, it's got in!
Sydney FC is the biggest club in the country, and I'm just very, very excited to be here.
What a crucial game this is for both countries. How good is it to have the Socceroos back on home turf?
Okay, welcome back to Lions Stadium here in Richlands, a very sunny Richlands. There is a little bit of cloud about, but nothing to bring any precipitation to proceedings here at Richlands. If you have just joined us, it is Lions, the premiers of Queensland, 0, and Campbelltown City, the double winners from South Australia, the double winners, 2-time double winners from South Australia, also on 0, although Campbelltown have had a couple of really good opportunities. Hit the crossbar 3 times on 2 separate occasions. They've also forced Luke Bruin into a couple of really good saves, and Lions in their huddle at the moment may well be just trying to regroup and regather and make sure that they understand what is expected of them in this second 45 minutes. At stake is a semi-final spot against Maitland FC, the premiers from northern New South Wales. And the team where that game will be played is still up for grabs. So we explained the point system in the early part of the contest. We'll go through it again as we continue when it appears, or when the timing at least appears. Matt Skinner, our referee, gets things underway, and Lions in the orange, kicking from left to right, get going pretty quickly early. Here's an opportunity right from the off from Duckworth, and the ball nestles in the arms of Nick Harpers. Really good stuff from both Mitch Hoare and Keegan Jelicic. And gone are the days of the long ball forward from kick-off. They just went dribbling, and that's hark back to the Victorian era of association football, when it was get the ball at the feet and then all charge forward. It was effective. Campbelltown looking to get their feet back on the ball, and Dan Mullen playing the ball across the face of goal towards Matt Mullen. One of 3 Mullins in the side, and then a fourth is Coach Joe, but an opportunity here for Duckworth. Duckworth could play the ball forward to Jelicic. Jelicic! It's a goal kick, and the Lions players are absolutely furious, saying that it should have been a corner, perhaps suggesting that Nick Harpers got a touch. I think it was always going over anyway. Not that that should facilitate it being a corner or not, but I didn't see a touch from Nick Harpers from our angle, and it was a good angle from right behind Keegan Jelicic. Absolutely leathered that, the former New Zealand under-17 international, and Lions have come out the blocks firing here. It's important to note that one of these 2 coaches, or for one of these 2 coaches, it will be their last game in charge of their teams. Warren Moon, he's stepping down to become the Raw Academy General Manager, Brisbane Raw Academy that is. And Joe Mullen, after 7 years in charge, 4 NPL South Australian Championships, 2 Premierships, and a National Premier League's overall National Championships last year, he's also stepping down at the end of the season. The 55-year-old who was capped twice for Australia, won 3 NSLs with Adelaide City, and 2 NSL Cups as well. Played 334 games for Adelaide City in the old NSL, did Joe Mullen, a real legend down in Adelaide in football circles, and could etch himself into immortality if he wins a second national title with Campbelltown City this season. It's punched clear by Harpers. And Lions big men will trot back into their defensive positions. It's Tommy Jarrod wearing the number 5 shirt, and Matthias Simic, the captain, returning to the side after a few weeks out, after he broke his wrist skiing. Still has that right wrist heavily strapped. We're going to have another corner here for Lions. It's a good start for the reigning Queensland Premiers. They average 3 goals per game across the regular season. 89 times they scored in 28 matches. So they won the Premiership from 4 points ahead of Gold Coast Knights, who were eventual champions. It's swept in towards the near post. That'll be another corner. Came off Dan Mullen last. Wind could start playing havoc. It's still coming from right to left as you see things, but more as you see things at the moment. So there is that angle. It's not coming right to left across the field from goal to goal, as it were. It's coming diagonally across, and Matt Skinner appears happy with the pushing and shoving that had abated after the whistle was blown. It's headed clear. Mitch Hoare has the ball on the edge of the penalty area. It will be crossed back in by Thompson. Comes off the head of the Campbelltown defender, and it'll be a throw-in in an attacking position. And it's Nathan Reardon who's slowly walking over to take that. The big men stay up. Well, one of them does anyway. Matthias Simic still in the penalty area. He only scored one goal this season, that coming in a 7-0 thumping of arch rivals Brisbane City all the way back in round 6. It was in April, so a long time ago. March, sorry. It was a long season in Queensland. Started in the first week of February, so these players have been playing an awful lot of football. 28 games as opposed to Campbelltown's 22 in the regular season, although Campbelltown did have a 3-game final series to contend with as well, and an FFA Cup tie. They lost 3-1 to Melbourne City. Melbourne City are in action against Brisbane Strikers in the semi-finals of the FFA Cup, as Strikers look to become the first team from the outside the A-League to reach the final. It'll be a formidable task at Perry Park. Tickets are still available for that game, which is taking place at 7:30 on Tuesday, October 1st. Head to brisbanestrikers.com.au or the FFAcup.com.au as Mitch Hoare shows his fancy footwork on the edge of the penalty area. He gets past another challenge. He gets past the edge of the area. It's a good shot. It's come to Josh Brindle South. It's cleared, not quite off the line, but from certainly inside the 6-yard box. Jelicic helps it back inside, and Campbelltown clear. Good football from Lions, and it all came from that run by Mitch Hoare. The 23-year-old has been pivotal for everything that Lions have managed to achieve in this game. That was a really good piece of play from the 23-year-old Lion. Reardon will take the throw-in. It was Reardon who actually got married in Stanthorpe last year, the night before the national final. Stanthorpe, a few hours west of Brisbane, so the players had a late night trip back to Brisbane, a couple of hours sleep, and then straight on the 9 o'clock flight down to Adelaide, where they lost 2-1 to their opponents today. That's helped inside by Jelicic. It was Duckworth who, I think, it actually hit his standing foot rather than the boot from which he swung. Mitch Hoare helps it back inside. Jelicic doesn't get all of it, doesn't get much of it at all in fact, but it's still there for Jelicic. Danny Kim now, pot shots coming in from all over the place, but Danny Kim's is high and wide and over the top and into the car park behind the goal. Not a great ending to what had been a very promising passage of play for the Queensland Premiers. Last year at this stage in the competition, Lions won by just a 1-0 against Edgeworth. Merritt Medley scoring in the 4th minute. He's on the bench. He scored 20 goals this season. Campbelltown press forward. Danny Kim heads it away. Now Reardon helps it on. Mitch Hoare, Danny Kim. Makwaze can't get hold of the ball, but he was under some duress, it appeared. Good football from Campbelltown after being rattled a little bit early. Here's Chur, scored twice in that grand final last year. Luke Breen covers. Heard Joe Mullen there telling Anthony Chur, who was a substitute in the first half of the unfortunate Dion Kirk, who went down with what looked like an ankle injury very, very early. Breen clears upfield. Chur was being told to go wider. Just as Andy Thompson has. Thompson now gets to the byline, checks, cross right-footed, and it's headed away, that time by Alex Mullen. And it'll be another corner for Lions. That's plenty in these opening stages of the second half. Campbelltown, despite winning the championship and premiership down in South Australia, are not in the best of form. They've lost 3 of the last 5 in the league, then lost once in the 3-game final series as well. They did score more goals than anyone else in South Australia this season. 51 goals from 22 matches, averaging just a tick over 2 a game. As Thompson sweeps the ball in. It was just off the head of Tommy Jarrod. Jelicic can't gather. Lions have the ball over on the far side of the field. They did concede the equal 4th best amount in the competition, so equal 4th lowest with 32. Average just under 1.5 goals per game. It's a Lions ball. Mitch Hoare takes it quickly. Comes back to Mitch Hoare. Thompson's on the overlap. Mitch Hoare will go inside to Makwase. Makwase quick feet back to Mitch Hoare. Mitch Hoare can't control. He bundles into his opponent and gives away a free kick. Campbelltown would be well advised just to keep things calm for the moment. Just try and regain a little bit of the ascendancy that they gained towards the end of that first half. They came out the blocks firing, did Campbelltown. They ceded territory and possession throughout the middle of the opening 45 minutes, but regathered it towards the end and posed Lions all sorts of problems. But it is the hosts who've come out firing in this second half. Still 0-0 though. Here's Makwase in a bit of space. That space evaporated pretty quickly, but Sean Harvey gives away a foul. Nathan Reardon urges Andy Thompson to go wide. Instead it finds itself towards Mitch Hoare. Makwase with the shot. Duckworth goes in. Duckworth goes down. Makwase continues pressing. Jelicic gets the ball. Makwase gets in his way. Jelicic with the shot. It's brilliantly blocked at source. And now the chase is on at the back for Lions with Tommy Jarrod going up against Luigi De Troia. And it's a battle that Tommy Jarrod wins. That was some foot race right from halfway. Tommy Jarrod does really, really well. Mitch Hoare using his body against his opposite number, Alex Mullen. Simic linking up with Reardon, back to Simic. And now all the way back to Luke Berean. Frenetic stuff here at Richlands Lions Stadium. Simon Smale with you in this elimination final of the National Premier Leagues. It's Queensland against South Australia, Lions against Campbelltown. And here's Danny Kim, whose father was a South Korean international, the youngest ever South Korean international, I think, certainly at the time. Here's Mitch Hoare. Lovely footwork from Mitch Hoare, linking up brilliantly with Jelicic. Mitch Hoare will go past one marker, slips the ball inside to Jelicic. Jelicic fires it across. And if not for the presence of mind of Sean Harvey, Jason Makwase had so much space and he would have just had a simple tap in at the back post. It was excellent work from the Campbelltown City captain to snuff out that challenge, and Lions really have come out firing at the start of his second period. Will they manage to make the breakthrough though? Feel like something's coming from the hosts. Simic is in the middle, so is Nathan Reardon. It's aimed towards Simic. Simic heads it back inside. It's back at the feet of Simic. Simic with the shot. It's blocked. Simic might have another go here. He goes back instead to Danny Kim. Kim leaves it though for Thompson. Now Thompson and Kim linking up well. That's really good pressure though. Really good pressure over on that far side of the field, and Lions are going to have to go all the way back. Hats off to Mark Marino. He did excellently there. The Campbelltown striker playing a lone hand really, as Mitch Hoare goes down under the challenge of Luigi De Troia. It's a sloppy foul to give away from Luigi De Troia, apologies. And I think Mitch Hoare's just explaining that to his fellow 23-year-old. Still a smirk on Mitch Hoare's face. Good spell of pressure from Lions, but Campbelltown have held firm as Berean goes on a little jaunt of his own. He launches it forward. Duckworth battling hard. Doesn't win out though two Campbelltown players getting in each other's way. One of them was Jake Halliday. Jelicic wants to play the ball inside to Mitch Hoare, but he's squared up by Mullen, who goes down. He's back to his feet though and is resuming his battle with Jelicic. Jelicic's doing well. Josh Brindle South had to check. Now we'll play the ball inside to Tommy Jarrett. Makwase wanted it. He's been busy, Jason Makwase, wanting the ball at every opportunity. That's what you want from one of your wide men. But Lions going back under not much duress, it has to be said. Just creating some angles, trying to entice the Campbelltown City players out, but they're holding firm with their bank of 4 at the back, 5 at the back it appears at the moment, 6 players in a line for Campbelltown at the back at the moment. Kim trying to prize an opening. That opening could exist here for Duckworth. He gets in behind Duckworth, plays the ball back to Josh Brindle South. Josh Brindle South, it's still there for him. They're both on the floor, the 2 players, and it's helped away really, really well by Matt Mullen. The 30-year-old needed all of his experience there. Josh Brindle South only has 2 goals to his name this season. Hasn't scored since June in a match against Strikers. Could have had an opportunity there. Could have an opportunity now on the edge of the penalty area. Makwase is offside. The flag goes up. It looked tight. But Mitch Hoare, judging by his expression and his use of the hands either side of his head, just felt that there was perhaps an arm or a foot just in advance of the line from Jason Makwase, his Colombian teammate. Good football from Lions though. This has been a very bright start to the second half. It's kept in brilliantly, but Matthias Simic is there to put the ball out and hammers it against the new clubhouse here at Lions. It's not new really now, a couple of years old. Fantastic facility. All the sports facilities underneath and the money generator, the poker rooms above. Was that a handball? It was a big strong shout, and you saw Matt Skinner look towards his assistant over on that far side. They chose not to give anything, so it was just the chest of Matthias Simic. Makwase back inside to Mitch Hoare. He's not quite coming off for Jason Makwase, but he's working so hard, and he continues his run here, and Harpers takes no chances and hammers it upfield. Something perhaps for Marino to chase. Shepherded back by Jared. Mitch Hoare. Oh, Duckworth let the ball run, and he could have perhaps stuck a foot out, but Jake Halliday nipped in and stole the ball away. It's another really good ball forward. Mitch Hoare suddenly finding some space in the midfield, right in the heart of this Campbelltown side. And that won't please Joe Mullen. Simic. Lions go back through Reardon to Berean. Berean along the floor to Kim. Risky sometimes, Luke Berean. He looks so lackadaisical and calm. It's a nice touch from Jelicic. Mitch Hoare. Brindle South on the overlap. Goes instead inside. Makwase's arriving, but Sean Harvey does really well. And he helps it upfield towards Marino, but it's out of play. Lions are pressing. Claws are coming out. No killer strike just yet. It was a little bit sloppy from Andy Thompson to allow the ball to be stolen away on that occasion by Harvey. And Harvey's out of position now, and he's walking back slowly to his spot. Heat perhaps getting to the South Australians, who've just come out of a long cold winter, whereas Brisbane and Queensland has come out of a, well, winter lasts about 2 weeks up here, I think, compared to the rest of the country. It does get a bit chilly, but not too bad, it has to be said. Nothing to complain about, that's for sure. Lions will be more used to these sorts of conditions, that's for sure. Jared checks. Go back inside to Reardon. Reardon playing in advance of Danny Kim. Kim wants an option ahead of him. Jelicic. Reardon inside to Duckworth. It's there for Duckworth. It's now there for Jelicic. It's taken off Jelicic's foot by Mitch Hoare. Jelicic was initially upset. He's not upset anymore because Mitch Hoare has the opening goal for Lions. It's just his 8th goal of the season in National Premier League competition, but Mitch Hoare gets the opener here for Lions, and you'd have to say, judged on the last few minutes of the second half, that has been coming. Excellent goal from Mitch Hoare. They were queuing up, in all honesty, from Lions. Could have been either Mitch Hoare, Keegan Jelicic. Indeed, Jason Makwaze as well was there too. Lovely ball inside to Joe Duckworth. But that has been coming as Campbelltown start to tire. And how will the reigning national champions respond? They'll respond by keeping the ball through Matt Mullen. Did Makwaze use an arm there? It's a free kick. Sean Harvey will take. Makwaze can't believe he was pinged for a handball on that occasion. The hand was by his side as well, so it's a peculiar one. Alex Mullen will go wide to Halliday. Jake Halliday didn't score in the regular season. Matt Mullen up towards Captain Harvey. Back inside to Detroyer. Detroyer has a little bit of space now on the edge of the penalty area. Detroyer's going to shoot. Barin watched it all the way into his chest. It bounced a little bit more favourably than a couple of the earlier shots from Campbelltown City did. And Luke Barin will drop punt this one. It'll only go as far as the head of Jake Halliday. Mitch Hoare tries to close down Alex Mullen, but Mullen turns and gets some space. He'll go on a little run now. Alex Mullen links up with Adam Piscianeri. Here's Harvey. Back to Alex Mullen. Anthony Chur scored twice for Campbelltown in the grand final last year. Against Lions, of course. Marino. It's going to be a corner. You're at your most vulnerable just after you've scored, and that adage is proving true here as Lions are forced onto the defensive after taking the lead through Mitch Hoare. Lovely goal it was too. They were queuing up in the middle, were the orange shirts, but they're queuing up here in a defensive sense. Oh, it's fallen at the back for Dan Mullen, but a free kick is given. All sorts of pushing and shoving going on at every set piece, it has to be said, but Matt Skinner saw something he didn't like there. Lions will breathe a sigh of relief. Lions were in the NSL for 11 years between 1977 and 1986, and then a brief return in 1988. They never won a title, but they did win the NSL Cup in 1981, so they do have a national title to their name. To the team from Richlands, formerly known as Hollandia, as you'd guess from the orange shirts, I suppose. On that occasion, they beat West Adelaide 3-1 to claim the title, as Detroyer embarks on a mazy run, but he's gone without the ball. Tommy Jarrett standing firm on the edge of the penalty area, and now Jason Makwaze has to be careful, gives away the ball. He was outnumbered and outgunned, Jason Makwaze there. Two players, both overhead height taller than him. Brindle South put his head in a dangerous position, but does well, and he's continued his run. Danny Kim will find him, and Lions are going to launch a counter-attack here. Slowed somewhat by Josh Brindle South's progression, but here is Jelicic, who could have scored. Mitch Hoare, who prior did score, and now another Lion has scored. Joe Duckworth gets Lions second, and they're well on their way now of a Queensland Premiers. It's Lions 2, Campbelltown City 0. And it was simple as Keegan Jelicic to Mitch Hoare to Joe Duckworth, and right down the middle, Campbelltown were vulnerable, and if they're not too careful, they're going to need to start to stem the flow, or they'll have no chance of defending their title. Looks like they're about to make a second substitution. Of course, they were forced into an early one as Dion Kirk vacated the field to be replaced by Anthony Chur. He hasn't had the same impact that he had 12 months ago down in Adelaide. We are going to see that substitution, and Anthony Chur, who was a substitute himself, has come off. He's just come off in front of us here. And Ian Fife. We talk of veterans. This man certainly is that. A 37-year-old from Adelaide. Has a distinction of being one of the only Australians to ever play in a FIFA World Cup final. He was in the under-17 decider against Brazil in the 1999 championships. It was his penalty that was actually saved in the shootout by the Brazilian keeper to hand Brazil the title, as that ball forward is dealt with by Matthias Simic, but not dealt with in terms of a clearance, except for Mitch Hoare manages to nip in. He's assisted one, he's scored another. He'll look to assist Joe Duckworth again, but it took a deflection on its way through off Dan Mullen. Campbelltown do still have time on their side. They'll need to do a little bit more than they have so far in this second half. They have been outgunned significantly in the second period. Those of you keeping score at home, a 2-0 victory is not enough for Lions to actually have hosting rights in the semi-final. Maitland scored 9 points. Even if Lions win in normal time, it'll be 9 points for the two home goals at 3 points each, and the home win, and the win in normal time, sorry. But an early yellow card to Matthias Simic could prove costly in terms of hosting. At the moment, Lions will be on the plane to Maitland in northern New South Wales. They accounted for Devonport Strikers by 3-2, a fantastic game. Check out nationalpremierleagues.com.au for all the highlights of that one. Thompson helps this ball towards Duckworth. Duckworth was left alone, and the ball's going to go in. Is it? No! It was so close. It was an opportunist strike from Nathan Reardon, who can't believe that he missed the target. Joe Duckworth still feeling the back of his head after Nick Harper's punch collected a little bit of head on its way through. So that pass forward is picked off by Jelicic. Lions are on the rampage here. Jelicic doing step over after flick. Got caught out a little bit, but Lions retain possession through Mitch Hoare and Kim. Here's Jelicic. Jelicic to Duckworth. Jelicic was bundled off any sort of run that he might have had. Fairly, says referee Matt Skinner. Campbelltown really do need to get their act together here, because the game is getting away from them, and getting away from them quickly. Lions are sensing that there's blood in the water. Mitch Hoare gets past two challengers brilliantly. Mitch Hoare has options on the inside. Jason McQuarze, now Duckworth. McQuarze still on the ground, and his shot from that prone position is really quite comfortably dealt with by Harpers. But excellent work from Jason McQuarze. Excellent work again from Mitch Hoare. He's bending this game to his will, is the Lions' number 8. This is a Lions team that is missing Henry Hoare, Mitch Hoare's younger brother. They've looked a better team with him, but they look a strong team now. Nathan Reardon doing an admirable job in that midfield. He should have made it safe for Lions with the third goal, but couldn't put that snapshot, admittedly, into the empty net vacated by Harpers as he cleared that ball off the head of Joe Duckworth. Could be costly in terms of hosting rights, but there's still time enough for Lions to get a third goal. Flag goes up on this near side. Goes against Joe Duckworth. Ian Fife was challenging Matthias Simic for 2 number 4s, going at it. Ian Fife played 166 Hyundai A-League games for Sydney, Adelaide and Newcastle. Not able to do much with those balls thumped forward as Simic heads the ball clear again, but Detroit sparks a little bit of initiative here. Halliday. Halliday's cross is a decent one. There's no one there, though. Nathan Reardon, though, dived straight down, and Matthias Simic has gone straight to ground. And this could be a concern for Warren Moon. Matthias Simic, who is recovering from a wrist injury. He broke his wrist, but it's the other appendage that's causing him some concern at the moment. He's just feeling away at his ankle. He's told Matt Skinner not to invite the physio on, although it appears Nathan Reardon is taking the matter into his own hands and has asked the Lions bench to provide some support. They have not entered the field though, and Simic appears okay to continue, but this is going to be interesting. It might have come off a collision with Ian Fife. Matt Skinner just sharing a word with the Campbelltown veteran. It's a good header from Tommy Jarrod. The Campbelltown players were swarming forward. They somehow sense a bit of an opportunity here as Simic loops that ball up into the air. Not comfortable, Matthias Simic, at the moment. He's going to have to be here, though. It's arriving at the back post! And Campbelltown have one back! Excellent finish it was, too. A lovely cross. And there's not much celebration. I think it might have been Matt Mullen who scored it. Primary school teacher who played 3 games for Adelaide in the Hyundai A-League. It's been credited as Alex Mullen by the ground announcer here at Richlands. I have to admit I didn't see a number arriving at the back post. I think Alex Mullen is actually right. But Matthias Simic, he's not comfortable, and will Lions rue the decision to keep him on? Because it looks like he is about to exit proceedings, and in fact he is exiting proceedings. He's been told to leave the field. Is it his hip? Is it his ankle? Lions down to 10 at the moment. Plenty of options from midfield. From a midfield perspective, it has to be said, for Warren Moon on the bench. You could have Sean Carlos, Nathan Shepherd in attack, Marek Madley in attack as well, Adam Sawyer as well in midfield. And you'd imagine that's what Warren Moon will do. He'll shift Nathan Reardon back to centre back, as after some confusion and consternation, Campbelltown are awarded a throw-in just in front of the Lions bench. Matt Skinner said that the substitution could take place. There's all sorts of confusion going on out there at the moment. The substitution will take place, and it'll be Sean Carlos who comes on. That'll be a concern for Lions. Matthias Simic, he is still over at that far end of the field. Free kick actually went against Campbelltown City. Nathan Reardon was the player closest from Lions' perspective, and he will slot into centre back. Sean Carlos going into the midfield, the former Strikers player who won the Brisbane Premier League Player of the Year with Lions. He's some talent. He has 9 goals from his 29 games this season, but Campbelltown sense an opportunity once again through Detroit. Detroit can't curl that one around, and it's off Nathan Reardon's knee. He'll fall quite comfortably. Campbelltown had 4-5 players in and around the penalty area there in their green shirts, as Mitch Hoare has passed towards Sean Carlos, who was carrying a bit of an injury in the semi-final and did look off his game, it has to be said. Enters the fray, and his first job was to chase something of a lost cause, but the flag does go up against Luigi Detroit, and Lions will have an opportunity to regroup and Luke Berean will take his time. Campbelltown just checking that Matt Skinner's aware that he'll have to add time on if any is wasted. Jelicic gets there ahead of Halliday. Duckworth flicks it on to Jelicic. Jelicic's back inside to Sean Carlos. It's his first touch. Kim. Duckworth was left alone on this near side and he has space to operate in. Here's Jelicic. Jelicic cuts back inside. He shoots and it's really well saved by Harpers. Keepers are loath to be beaten at their near post, but Harpers had to really stretch that foot out to avoid that fate befalling him on that occasion. Really, really good stop. A good opportunity for Lions, and it was good work by Duckworth and Jelicic on this near side to create the opportunity and fashion the space out of nothing, really. Campbelltown can't afford to concede here, you'd think. It would snuff out that comeback in a heartbeat. Jared leapt, not high enough. It'll go all the way through to a goal kick for Lions. So 2-1 the score here. Lions getting the first through Mitch Hoare, Duckworth the second, before Alex Mullen replied with a header at the back post for Campbelltown, the reigning champions. They're not going to give up their title without a fight here in this elimination final. 8 premiers from around the country. Danny Kim does really, really well to win a throw-in over on that far side of the field. We're going to have another substitution for Lions. Jason McQuarze has worked so hard for Colombian. He's coming off, and replacing him is Marek Madley. Madley scored for Lions at this stage of the competition last year. Took him just 4 minutes to score. He scored the winning goal in the grand final in 2018 here in Queensland as well. In fact, last year was a real purple year for Marek Madley, a Czech player scoring 41 goals in 28 games for a combination of Holland Park Hawks and Lions. That was just in the National Premier League Queensland as well. Scored 20 goals from 28 this season. He jumps up there. He loves and relishes the battle. A niggly, nuggety sort of player, Madley. Expect him to be a handful for the Campbelltown defenders. Kim was closed down quickly, but not quickly enough. Here's Mitch Hoare. Madley's offside. So Hoare checks the pass and goes back to Carlos. Carlos's pass is checked by Mullen. It was the Matt Mullen on this occasion. And then Shepherd, Duckworth, apologies, can't make his run count. And Campbelltown will look to attack now through Luigi De Troyer, who has space on this near side. He miscontrols somewhat. Couldn't use Ian Fife, goes the other way. And Lions snuff out the danger. Here's Jelicic. Lots of space for Sean Carlos. This game is opening up. Madley is onside, is he? He's looking at the assistant. It was a game of chicken almost between Marek Madley and the assistant official on this near side. Madley kept looking, kept running, decided against it, then ran again, and then the flag eventually went up. We'll need to watch that line, Madley. Looks like he's playing as part of a 2 up front, line switching to 4-4-2. Duckworth dropping back to the left side of the 4 in midfield. Allowed to bounce by Lions, and here is Marino. Marino linking up with Fife, still there for Marino, now Fife the veteran. Alex Mullen can hit them. Alex Mullen does hit this. It's got caught up in the feet of Thompson, and he does clear his lines, and now Madley proves his worth by holding the ball up and winning a free kick. It's the sort of player that is easy to foul. He gets the ball with his back to goal and just waits for those challenges to come. Lions 2, Campbelltown City 1. Second half of this elimination final in the National Premier League's final series. Heavy pass forward by Josh Brindle South, and Sean Carlos has fresh legs, but not that fresh. Dan Mullen goes back to Harpers. Harpers forward towards Ian Fife. Ian Fife gets in behind Andy Thompson now. Goes back to Allwright. All the way back to Harvey. And then Piscaneri was closed down by Madley. Madley did really well then, but it's still there for Campbelltown. It's helped across. For shot come cross was Luigi De Troyer. Marino was there in the middle. He couldn't make anything of it though. And here's Jelicic. Jelicic being challenged by Mullen. Alex Mullen did really well there against Jelicic. And look at the space now for Halliday. Halliday slips as he hit that. Thompson's header didn't go as far as he would have liked. The ball back inside from Luigi De Troyer was not the best, but De Troyer does well to close down Nathan Reardon, who's slotted back into that centre-back role that he has been used in over the course of the latter part of the National Premier League's Queensland season for Lions. Fife linking up well with Marino. Marino went to ground and it's frustration from Marino. Carlos and Jelicic now. Jelicic has space. Jelicic's pass wasn't the best for Madley, and Madley did give chase against Dan Mullen, but Mullen will go all the way back and it's launched back forward again. And Luke Berean will gather eventually, but he'll use some seconds off the clock first. He runs right to the bottom corner of his penalty area. Ian Fife did chase. Madley does well, was brought to ground, but no foul. He was backing in as much as he was being manhandled. A judge's Matt Skinner. Fife does well to keep that one in. Really well to keep that one in. Here's De Troyer. De Troyer and Fife. Oh, it's still there for Fife somehow. Challenge is going to come in from Reardon, though. Reardon does really well. Fife by hook or by crook managed to keep that ball alive. He did really well in the first instance. I'm not quite sure it was 100% intentional the second time. But then a player of his ability and his longevity may well have intended those ricochets all along. Mullen. Dan Mullen in towards Joel Allwright. The path is blocked and Lions will look to build from the back once again. Mitch Hoare playing deeper now. Jelicic. It's going to go back to Tommy Jarrod. Lions without their skipper in these closing stages. Matthias Simic going off with what looked like an ankle injury as Hoare finds Madley. Madley's going to give chase. Madley's going to keep chasing, something that's been asked of him by Warren Moon, and he's still chasing Madley. Good work from the big striker. Mitch Hoare was cleaned up by Jake Halliday. It was an unfortunate collision. It was not entirely sure what Jake Halliday could have done, but he did continue to run into Mitch Hoare. And Jake Halliday saying, well, where was I meant to go? But Mitch Hoare will use this opportunity to just have a bit of a breather. We're going to see a substitution for Lions. It is Lions, and it's Joe Duckworth who's coming off, and he's going to be replaced by a more natural left-sided player, Nathan Shepherd. Hasn't scored since June against Easts for 27-year-old Scott. Did score against Heidelberg in the semi-final last year. And that 1-1 draw. Lions won 3-1 on penalties, incidentally, after Sean Ellis got a late equaliser on that Tuesday night game. Brindle South to Mitch Horn, showing no ill effects of that heavy contact from Jake Halliday. Jelicic. Walking pace now from Lions. Brindle South goes back to Mitch Hoare. Mitch Hoare's going to go all the way back to Luke Berean. Berean is going to be closed down pretty quickly by Ian Fife. Oh, it's fallen for Madley off Luke Berean. Is it a penalty? It's a free kick on the edge of the area, is it? Yes, it is. Right on the edge of the penalty area. The assistant's asking, is it a penalty? They're having a conversation now, the assistant and the man in the middle. This could be very, very important for Lions in terms of hosting is on the edge of the penalty area. It will not be a penalty. Madley did go down under the challenge. We've already said he looks for that contact quite regularly. Free kicks like this, almost too close to the edge of the penalty area, too close to the goal to get it up and over the wall and back down again in order to cause Nick Harpers any sort of threat. Sean Carlos and Andy Thompson are standing over it, but Sean Carlos has walked away. Madley's the only player in there for the follow-up, and was pretty comfortably placed over the bar by Andy Thompson. Fine if you're playing Gaelic football, not so much if you're playing the more conventional variety. Still 2-1 Lions lead. Long ball, straight ball all the way through from Harpers to Berean. Fife gives chase. Berean just eating up another second or two, making the 37-year-old run. It's just a bit too straight from Harpers, needs to create an angle somehow. Madley stretched the shoulder out, it was a long shoulder. Shepherd just caught Matt Mullen with a high boot, and Matt Mullen is going to take the free kick. Madley just proves himself a bit niggly, and that's a yellow card for Marek Madley. That could also be costly for Lions, because that's another point in arrears in terms of hosting, and it's not just for the semi-finals that you're talking about the grand final as well. And after Wollongong scored 5 in their victory over Canberra Olympic, we'll have to see if how Heidelberg go against Perth, but that was a big score from Wollongong. It looks like Lions will be playing the latter stages of this competition away, if they can hold on for the victory here. We're in stoppage time now, and Madley wins a throw-in over on that far side of the field. It's been a good performance from Warren Moon's side. In his opposite number, Joe Mullen, it's certainly worth sharing a few moments, or spending a few moments, talking about some of his achievements in his 7 years at Campbelltown. 4 championship titles as Madley gets his feet tangled at the back with Sean Harvey and wins a free kick for his side. Time ticking away for Campbelltown City here. But Joe Mullen, 4 championships in South Australia, 2 premierships, 2 consecutive premierships and 2 consecutive championships as well, and grand final wins, and a national title as well for the former Socceroo. He'll leave Campbelltown a better place than he found it 7 years ago. It's been a fantastic stint for Joe Mullen, and we wish him best in whatever he chooses to do next and whichever club he ends up at. He is a coach of coaches. He does the coaching licence course down in South Australia. Coaches the A licence, I believe. They'll no doubt stay involved in football. If his time is to end here, and doesn't look like Campbelltown are going to be able to get much of the ball, if any, as Ian Fife once again gives chase in a fruitless cause against Luke Berean. Berean hammers this ball upfield. Madley waits underneath it. Madley, the arm was up. Madley's going to win this. He uses his body so well, Marek Madley. Mitch Hoare has the ball taken off his foot. Jelicic is there. Madley had to be offside, didn't he? Van Mullen is there chasing. And Luigi De Troyer is suggesting that the linesman should have put his flag up. As Harpers hammers that ball forward. Oh, bad news for Lions as Danny Kim clutches at his knee. Lions down to 10 at the moment. Danny Kim can't move. Will Campbelltown latch upon this brief shadow of opportunity here? Not if they don't have the ball, they won't, and Lions will do well just to take a bit of time here as Danny Kim gently sinks to the ground with the assistance of Keegan Jelicic. It's not been Mark Marino's day. He goes off the field to be replaced by Jacob Williams. Jacob Williams scored in the semi-final in the 2-0 victory over Adelaide Comets ahead of the grand final victory. Danny Kim looked in all sorts of pain, and this is really bad news for Lions. They've made all 3 of their substitutions have the home team. They don't have much time left remaining, it has to be said, but you never like seeing players go down without too much contact on the ball. It might be his groin that he's clutching at, actually. Young Danny Kim. His only goal this season came in that 7-0 victory against Brisbane City. Such a huge performance for the club. It was the biggest ever victory, biggest ever result between the 2 former NSL giants here in Queensland. And the 3rd NSL team that's played, or that did play in the NSL, are still in action in the FFA Cup as well. They'll take on Melbourne City in the semi-final October the 1st. There's connections everywhere. Melbourne City with a team that knocked out Campbelltown City in the round of 32. 3-1 the score there in front of just a shade over 3,000 at the Steve Woodcock Sports Centre. Jamie McLaren getting 2, Craig Noon getting 1, Ian Fife getting the only goal in response. And Danny Kim has made his way to the sideline now, and Lions will be forced to play with 10 men for the remainder, you'd think. Can Campbelltown capitalise? They might, you know. Here's Luigi De Troia. Luke Berean came out of his goal. He is prone to the odd flash of, I'm not quite sure what you'd call it, hot-headedness, risk-taking in racing out of his goal, but he got his angles right on that occasion, did the eccentric goalkeeper of Lions. And he'll launch this ball forward safely from his goal kick. Madley and Matt Mullen renewing acquaintances. Carlos hammers that ball forward towards Madley again. Sean Harvey this time the player tasked with dealing with Madley, and he's a hell of a handful, and it looked like Harvey had a bit of a handful of Madley's shirt there, but the free kick goes in favour of Campbelltown. And then the free kick was taken about 10 yards further forward than it could have been. Josh Brindle South has to be alert, and he helps that ball out. Is it a corner kick or is it a throw-in? Everybody's coming up for Campbelltown. There's no point in keeping anyone in reserve. They need a goal, and they need one now. Shepherd heads it clear. It's going to come back, though, through Dan Mullen and Halliday. Halliday's cross was blocked, though, by Jelicic. Now it's hammered forward by Mullen. Were there hands involved there from Tommy Jarrett? The hands were outstretched. There's no doubt about that, and Adam Piscianeri was not afforded the luxury of being able to jump. That's what the conversation is about from the Campbelltown City players. But it looks like Matt Skinner has put his whistle to his mouth, and it is Lions who progress. They will travel to Maitland to take on Maitland FC next week in the semi-finals. Excellent contest here between the reigning champions and last year's grand finalists. It was a repeat of the 2018 grand final. There's a little bit of an inquest still going on between Jacob Williams and Ian Fife and Matt Skinner as to why that wasn't a penalty when Tommy Jarrett jumped with his hands potentially on the shoulders of Adam Piscianeri, although it has to be said Piscianeri did not appeal himself. But Mitch Hoare will play. Mitch Hoare scored the opening goal. That lead was doubled by Joe Duckworth, assisted by Mitch Hoare. They were queuing up for the first goal. It has to be said Mitch Hoare took it off the feet of Keegan Jelicic, who's playing his first game in 3 months after suffering injury. Campbelltown made it quite interesting, though, when Alex Mullen headed in at the back post. And they did press home for that equaliser, but it was too little too late. And in an exact reverse of last year's grand final, it is Lions who will progress to the semi-final. The football's not done for the day, though. from Victoria. 4:30 kickoff down at JL Murphy Reserve. Heidelberg United taking on Perth. A Victoria versus Western Australia battle for the right to play Wollongong Wolves, and it will be likely a trip to Wollongong to take on the Wolves after they beat Canberra Olympic by 5-1 yesterday. But that's all we'll have time for here at Richlands at Lions Stadium. Thank you very much for joining me, Simon Smale. nationalpremierleagues.com.au for all the details on the next round of fixtures. But from me, Simon Smale, thank you and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good evening.